And we are live.
Hey, welcome to the Zocalo, everybody. This is your one-stop shop for all things Babylon 5. I'm Char, you're Norm, and today we are doing a see it or skip it, possibly the toughest one yet. Season 4.
The toughest one, or maybe the easiest one?
Well, after going through my list, it was pretty agonizing. Now, Season 3 was pretty tough, too. Maybe those are a little more on equal footing, but I don't know. My head hurt after I went through my list and made my picks. So that's just where I'm at with things as of yesterday. Just wow, that was a lot tougher than I thought. I thought maybe it would be a little easier just because we said on Twitter, we kind of joked about it saying, hey, just watch them all. You don't want to miss any. And really, that's our recommendation always. This is an exercise sort of in futility because I don't know. There's not a whole lot of a Cliff's Notes version you can have with Babylon 5, but we're trying it anyway.
You know, it's easier when you have like non-serialized seasons of shows because you can always just pick a show and say like, okay, does it work? Does it not work? But when things are, especially with season 4, when things are so tightly weaved together in this narrative, everything has everything kind of springboards off of one episode and into another, and a lot of threads are being tied up or continued, or they're kind of transitioning, moments in transition.
Hey, look what you did there. Good work. Yeah, you're absolutely right. That was the difficulty. Was season 4 is such a built season. There's so many threads, so many different stories all happening at once, and it's tough. It's tough, man. Yeah. But here we are. We're going to do this thing going through all 22 episodes of season 4. Want to say hi to Terry Lynn. Thank you for joining us.
Hopefully this new time slot works better for you.
Yeah, we're going to try this out. You've got some Gordo Prito to go to later on, yes?
I do. The reason why we moved up the time slot is because I'm trying out something new in the realm of fencing. I'm going to be doing some lightsaber training, or they call it light speed fencing, because it's more kind of like foil fencing with lightsabers, but we'll see. It's my first time. I've never done it before, but I'm trying something new out.
All right, cool. Well, you're going to have to report back. Let us know how it all went, and if you're going to go back and do more of it, all that fun stuff. Speaking of getting back to us on things, I did tweet JMS last week about the whole name change in Messages from Earth. Mm-hmm. Why was it not Dr. Kirkus from the start? Didn't get a reply, so we'll try some other time maybe. I mean, his mentions get flooded from comments and questions from people all the time. It's really neither here nor there.
You know, sometimes when I get a reply to him, I'm like, I'm surprised you even saw it at all, because so much stuff that you have to sift through.
Right. So nothing personal. It's just that didn't happen. But I thought I'd tell our viewers that no, we did not get a reply on that. We have no answers at the moment.
Well, you know, with the advent of a lot of stuff that we have to talk about, I think we should just jump right into it.
Shall we? Okay. Well, before we jump into it, shall we jump into the breviary?
We shall. Valtu!
Nice mug.
Oh, yeah. Our last best hope for coffee.
Coffee. Is that what you're drinking? Coffee with milk?
Coffee with milk, yeah. See, usually, this is going to be interesting, though, because I might have to change my Bavaria regiment, because I can't really tie one on too hard before I go and do something athletic. It's not good for the body.
No.
Alcohol
you won't be
literally dries out your body.
Yeah. Interesting. Kind of like when we did mornings and I didn't really feel like doing Breviary at 11 a.m. our time when we were doing that.
I loved morning Breviary.
You know, maybe at brunch, but I don't know. It just wasn't working for me at the time. Anyway, let's get into it.
Alrighty.
The Hour of the Wolf. We're going to read a short synopsis with each of these, by the way, and then we'll read our verdict.
Yes, our synopses, if everyone wants to follow along, comes from the wikipedia.org list of Babylon 5 Season 4. No Surrender, No Retreat, 1996 to 1997.
Yeah, them's was good days. All right. Ivanova, Delenn, and Lita travel to Zahadum and to search for Sheridan, while Jakar ventures out to search for Garibaldi. Londo finds that the political climate on Centauri Prime has worsened under the rule of Cartagia, the insane emperor. Norm, should we see it or skip it?
Oh, you have to see this. You have to see this.
Yeah.
It's a continuation of season 3. Sheridan is in the pit somewhere in Zahadum.
Right at the very end.
And you don't know what's going on with him. You don't even really know it's kind of it's him, but they're kind of like shrouding him, and he looks like a homeless person, beggar. Somebody, I don't know like where that cloak came from. Maybe there are always just cloaks at the bottom of the pit of Zahadum.
I think you get a free one if you make it.
Yeah, something like, you found like a burlap sack.
Free cloak with the admission of reaching the pit at Zahadum.
You want to know like who wore that first? Maybe it was Lorian's. I don't know.
Maybe that's all he's doing while he's down there is just knitting cloaks. I don't know. You'd get really bored just hanging out with nothing. I mean, there's nothing down there but a freaking campfire.
The first cloaks.
First cloaks.
Those cloaks are older than the cloaks are older than shadow technology.
You think they would have some super capability, some Harry Potter-esque kind of power or something, since they're made by Lorien.
We also get introduced to Cartagia.
Yes. And so my big argument on this one was, do you watch this to establish all of these things? And for the record, my verdict is see it. But I questioned, could you skip this and just jump in and gather those things a little later? Because you're going to see more of Cartagia. We're going to see more of Lorien. The whole thing with Ivanova and company going out to search for Sheridan was kind of fruitless. Do we need to actually see that? Does that matter? The answer to that is probably no. But as an introduction and a continuation from season 3 leading into season 4, I feel like this is such a good setup that, yes, we need it.
But I also think that you needed to see that the beginning of it, because Ivanova, being Commander Ivanova, she's next in line to run Babylon 5. And she's not ready for it. Kind of like the way that Riker wasn't ready for Picard to not chair the captain's chair, right? So
sure.
It's almost kind of like a study in, is Ivanova ready to move on? Is she ready to take command? Is she ready to let go emotionally, knowing how many people that Ivanova has lost in her life emotionally? The parable with the mother wolf and the 3 young pups and the vodka and the 3 little sips. I thought that was an amazing scene for her.
Oh, for real. It definitely was. And that's actually another really important part of this whole episode, right? Is it's showing the amount of grief people are feeling from the loss of Sheridan. Is Ivanova running the station? Sure. But is she also grieving like crazy? Absolutely. So is Delenn. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a lot of fallout from this. This is basically in the same way that Will Riker wasn't necessarily ready to take over with Best of Both Worlds. Mm-hmm. He's got this whippersnapper Commander Shelby at his heels, ready to take over at a moment's notice if he doesn't fight back. And then Picard gets assimilated. We have the Best of Both Worlds moments. Well, this is the same kind of thing, Babylon 5 style, right? We've lost Sheridan. And is Ivanova going to step up or not? Right.
But at least Ivanova doesn't have Shelby at her heels. Could you imagine like Corwin like, hey, are you going to run CNC or am I going to run CNC? Right.
He does not have the cojones for that.
No,
certainly not at this point, and certainly not with Ivanova.
Right. But he would have been. But he's kind of like next in line, right, in CNC.
I think so, basically, and he's certainly not ready for it. No. So, yeah. Ivanova's not going to betray her responsibilities, but is she hurting? 100%.
So that's a see it on the hour.
That is
of the
a
wolf.
see it. For the record, we have, over time, put together a spreadsheet with all of our picks through the last 3 seasons, now working on 4. And since we're no longer doing the Facebook group, I'll upload this to our Reddit group, and we'll give you all that contact information at the end of the show.
Oh, super good. Awesome.
Yeah. Okay, you want to take the next one?
Episode 2, Whatever Happened to Mr. Garibaldi?
Mr. Garibaldi.
G'Kar and Marcus continue searching for Garibaldi, pursued by agents of the Centauri. Sheridan tries to return to life with the help of the mysterious being Lorien. Mysterious being Lorien.
There we go. Lorien being Lorien, the mysterious being Lorien.
The funny thing is that you can read that regarding Lorien. You can read that so many different ways with those 3 words.
You just did. It was really good.
Didn't I?
Yeah.
I haven't even had any Bravari yet. Oh well.
That's all right.
All
Maybe
right,
you need
Char.
the Bravari.
I should. Yeah, maybe I do. So what do you think? What do you think?
This is, you got to see it. Jakar's capture leads to more important things in the near future, and we need to know that Sheridan is alive at this point. If you, in fact, did skip Hour of the Wolf, this is much more involved in this episode. And we also learn that Garibaldi is alive, but the circumstances are mysterious.
Mysterious being Lorian.
No, not in that case.
Also, I just wanted to point out that Jakar was turned in by one Mage Cullah, Anthony DeLongis.
That was him?
Yep.
Oh, wow. I missed that.
That was his bar. Yeah, that was his bar.
Okay. Hey, you know what? I've got a question about that whole thing. When Patrick and I watched this episode, he asked, where was this, this cantina, if you will? What planet? Where did they go? Do you know off the top of your head? Because I was not able to answer that question, and I haven't done the research to find out.
I just thought it was just some kind of random planet that Jakar was like hopping by, and I don't think it was anything in particular. Obviously, the Centauri were following. They weren't necessarily following Jakar. They were getting all these kind of like anonymous tips that there's a Narn on the loose on our planet.
Heaven forbid. No, I think, that's good to know, because then that probably means it was just some random unnamed planet that did not matter.
Yeah, it was just a backwater planet. And remember, they were trying to hunt down pieces of the Starfighter or the Star Fury, that had like serial numbers and parts and stuff like that. So they found that dealer that deals with selling salvage goods on that planet. So it was kind of like a Tatooine type Mos Eisley situation.
Yeah.
On Star Wars. And then all of a sudden, I love Anthony, because when I met with Anthony, we're talking about it, and he knows his lines backwards and forwards. He's flipping through a book of pictures, which is funny, not like a computer, whatever. But he's like, no, similar but too tall.
I love it. Terry also mentions that we get Lorian's background in whatever happened to Mr. Garibaldi. Yeah, we should probably know that too.
Yep.
Good point. Yep.
So, did you vote?
My vote is to see it.
My vote is
What's
to see
yours?
it too. Yeah.
Okay, so it's a keeper. We're keeping whatever happened to Mr. Garibaldi. That takes us to the summoning. Zach gets a lead on rescuing Garibaldi from his unknown captors. Delenn faces opposition from the League of Non-Aligned Worlds when she tries to reorganize the Army of Light. Come on, you gotta see this one.
Right?
Come on, this is where Sheridan returns and rallies the troops, if nothing else.
That's the scene. It's like in Sleeping in Late, that's the scene that they flash back to.
Yeah.
Will you stand together?
Yeah. For that moment alone, you gotta keep this one. But there's other stuff. Like rescuing Garibaldi. Yeah, that's pretty important. And then there's a lot of stuff with Delenn, too. She wants to go strike Zahadum and the League of Non-Aligned Worlds. They're kind of being babies like they usually are. And hearsay, the Minbari never tell the full truth. And then Sheridan steps in and says, oh, yeah?
But this is also where, you saw kind of like Lanier's reaction to when he returned. He was kind of glad because Sheridan can put together the League of Non-Aligned Worlds, but he's not so excited because now that Delenn has Sheridan's attention again.
Right. Yeah, Lanier really likes to take care of Delenn whenever Sheridan's not around, and so now that he's back, dang it, he's got to relinquish that again.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that's definitely a see it. The first threes are definitely, they're like a trilogy. It's like the Sheridan Resurrection trilogy, right?
I hadn't thought about it that way, but you're right. That's really good.
And it's nice too, because sometimes like in today's day and age of binge watching, you can always figure out like what happened to a character as long as you have the time to like just power through episodes. But when it was happening in real time, this is the 3 weeks you had to wait for this, plus the entire summer after the cliffhanger of Zahadum.
Oh God, that had to have been painstaking.
Oh, it was agonizing.
I believe it. Oh man. I mean, I was throwing things at the TV and I just had to wait a weekend, I think, because I was watching on TNT.
Oh, right.
And even that was painful.
Right.
Like for the first and probably only time in my life, I could not wait until Monday.
That's right. You were watching it on TNT. These were
Yes,
reruns for you?
What's that?
Were these reruns for you?
Well, yeah, technically they were
Yeah, because
reruns.
they were playing all of it before they launched season
Yeah.
5. That's right. Yeah.
Yep, and they were doing one every day, 5 days a week, and that's how I caught up while they were airing season 5 concurrently.
That's still pretty awesome, though. I mean, it's not like binge watching awesome, but successively,
Yeah.
you're getting Babylon 5 every day.
It was the closest thing we could get to binge watching in the 90s.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun. Terry's got an interesting comment. I never thought much about this. Did you know that minbar is a derivative of the Arabic root nbr, to raise or elevate, and is a pulpit in the mosque? Makes you consider JMS his choice of names. Oh, that would not surprise me in the least, Terry. If JMS, in fact, did derive from that sort of a thing. He's incredibly intelligent, always makes these kind of connections, sort of like how Delenn is from the house of Mir, a la Mira Furlan, the Russian word mir, which is light. He does these things.
He's a pretty smart guy from what I can tell.
A little intelligent, yeah.
He
He's
knows
all
how to
right.
write. He can write.
He's okay, I guess.
He's no Jake Sisko as a writer, but he can write. Right.
Dude. I mean, I like Jake, don't get me wrong, but he's no JMS.
I have that on the brain.
I know, because you're watching DS9. Super exciting. I cannot wait to hear your first episodic debut for
Drops
Mission Log.
January 23rd.
Ooh, coming right up. Yes.
Coming right up. Yeah.
Okay. Something to look forward to this week. That's exciting.
All right. So we have episode 4, Falling Toward Apotheosis.
Yes.
As the first step towards ending the war, Sheridan decides to act against the new Vorlon ambassador. Jakar faces torture at the hands of Cartagia.
Okay. You've got to see this one for the following reasons. 1, Kosh 2 is KO'd. 2, Lorianne gives Sheridan long enough. 3, Sheridan and Delenn get engaged. 4, Cartagia's insanity is in full force at this point. Oh, that whip, man.
I want my scream. What? Why is he defying me?
When a leader talks to dead heads, and that's not the creepiest, most horrible thing about him, you've more than got a problem.
Yeah, and that's when the minister of Verini, was it Verini? This is when he got getting a little wacky. He's like, he talks to hands in the secret room.
Yes. Yeah. That was him.
Yeah, he's a great character. We should do something about him.
We should.
Yeah.
He likes pastels.
and the new short cropped hair. It's new to the court.
It is, and it's this trend. Everybody's doing it.
It's a little short for my taste, Majesty.
You know what? I prefer the longer hair. It's very majestic looking.
It's peacocky. They might as well just do the
right. You might as well be
the millionaire
strutting.
strut.
Yeah, with all the hairspray.
But yeah, Falling Towards Apotheosis it's a powerful, very dark episode. I mean, Sheridan, he has that piece of Kosh in him, goes up against Dark Kosh. They have that great CGI fight, right?
Yep.
And then this basically sets up Sleeping in Light because it gives him the 20-year clock.
That's right. So we've got a ticking time bomb at this point. And if you don't know that, Sleeping in Light won't make as much sense. And you can't F with Sleeping in Light.
And one begs to wonder, because JMS knew that the 4th season was going to be basically the last season.
Yes.
If he was writing a lot of these tidbits in there because Sleeping in Light was filmed at the end of this season, but it wasn't aired until the end of the 5th season as the final episode of Babylon 5. So it would have made more sense seeing Sleeping in Light then, because at least Ivanova was still, they wrote her story into an episode we'll talk about later and where she went. But yeah, there's a lot going on in Sleeping in Light that is hinted towards in many of these episodes.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, watching Sleeping in Light after season 4 makes a lot of sense for that reason. But it is what it is. Yeah. He did the best he could under those circumstances. Even the way he planned out as much as he could, there were still some things that just can't totally be accounted for. Okay, episode 5 is The Long Night. Sheridan continues putting the pieces in place for his final strike against the Shadows and the Vorlons, while Londo and Veer make the final preparations for assassinating Emperor Cartagia. So, This one is another one. You've got to see it. The wheels are turning on so many fronts here for the final strike against the Shadows and the Vorlons, as well as with Londo and Veer and their strike against Cartagia. You're going to miss a lot if you don't see what's happening here.
Yeah, and this is where I think they're starting to piece together the way that the Vorlons are hit. Not the Vorlons. Well, yeah, the Vorlons and the Shadows are strategizing their military campaigns and knowing that the Shadows are forcing everybody into this one sector.
Sure, and the Vorlons are striking as well. Like they just, at this point, this is when they just don't give a you know what.
And Garibaldi kind of doesn't either anymore.
He's different.
Remember?
Got a little bit of a different attitude, that boy.
It's like,
you know something's up.
So they can just kill entire planets. Anyone want to tell me how we're going to go up against that?
I mean, he makes a valid point.
And then who was it? Was it Ivanova that said, Mr. Garibaldi is usually pretty crabby or grouchy, but he's
like, is it? So. Yeah. It's like, what did she? It is Ivanova. Is it just me, or is Mr. Garibaldi even more grouchy than usual, or something like, or cranky than you? You know, cranky, crotchety. I don't remember the exact word, but yes, that's the sentiment.
Yeah, you can tell that. See, Michael always had a dry wit about him, and he was really sarcastic, but in the Garibaldi kind of way. But now he's just straight up almost being defeatist.
He's also being a little more combative.
Yeah.
Which was not necessarily in his nature. He liked getting a good, straight answer, but now it's more like he's demanding answers people can't get him, and he's doing it just to kind of rattle the cage a little bit, if you will.
He's not towing the party line as much as he used to.
Certainly not.
Yeah.
No.
So we are
more
seeing
of that
a trend.
To come.
Yeah, we're seeing a trend in his behavior, his behavioral shift for sure.
Yeah. It's that nice little clue that, yes, something happened to him while he was in that interrogation room, whatever it was, wherever he was.
But that, yeah. Oh my gosh. So we're 5 for 5 now, right?
Well, that's kind of how I was expecting this to go so far. But let's
Terry
keep going.
Lynn, you can't skip the long night.
Why? No, you know what? I feel like this is another sort of trilogy with Falling Toward Apotheosis, Long Night, and Into the Fire. This is the middle ground, but it's keeping so many things going that if you skip it, Into the Fire, it's probably going to lose some of its oomph, some of its value, because you're just not going to know what happened right before.
Yeah, the Long Night is like the two towers of this trilogy. You know, it kind of just starts setting all the wheels in motion for Into the Fire.
Right. So you really do need to see how we get there. So speaking of Into the Fire.
Do it.
All right. At the height of the Shadow War, Sheridan stages a final showdown between the Vorlons and the Shadows at Coriana 6. You got to see this. You can't skip the end of the Shadow War. Duh. What are we doing this for?
This episode literally is the episode that starts with season 1's Signs Importance, right? It's the beginning of the Shadow and storyline, and this is literally the very end of the overall Shadow storyline.
You're
this is
right.
What you watched Babylon 5 for.
If you don't want to watch this episode, what have you been watching this series this whole time for? The whole thing of who are you? What do you want? Hello. We're coming to as much of a conclusion as we possibly can with this whole thing. 4 years in the making here.
It literally is. It's not just a see it, is a you can't even consider skipping it.
Yeah, I have must see in my notes. It's required.
It's easily a must see, and easily a must see in the top probably 10 episodes of Babylon 5.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know a lot of people weren't necessarily happy with the conclusion of the Shadow War. And granted, if JMS had known he had 5 full seasons, maybe it would have resolved a little differently. But given what it is, it's still very powerful. This was never meant to be that all-out special effects extravaganza kind of pew-pew-pew war. No. They even say in the episode it's a war of understanding.
Right.
The words are the weapons.
I love the very last scene with the Shadow, basically the Shadow, I guess, representative, because it's Morden's voice, it's Ed Wasser's voice, and you can hear like, "Will you come with us?" They sound like lost children.
Yes, exactly. They sound like scared little kids. They don't want to be lonely.
No. Mm-mm. But they're off to the Grey Havens or beyond the Rim. And
that's right.
It's time for the lesser races in the third age of the dawn of mankind.
That's right. This is ours now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So yeah, skip it.
Or not.
Yeah, right.
Okay, next one.
Episode 7, Epiphanies. Garibaldi resigns his position. Bester returns with the news that Earth Alliance plans to isolate and discredit Babylon 5.
Okay, this is the first one I question whether or not it is skippable. Because can you figure out later on that Garibaldi's not himself? We've already got some clues. We're going to get a whole lot more later. You kind of would miss the strange message and the sad face in the mirror, though, and those are big signs that something is up. The big takeaway from the mission with Bester is that there's still agents of the shadows out there because they're leaving Zahadum right before Zahadum blows up. But you can figure that out later, too.
When the Drak make their appearance, yeah.
Right. So does that mean you can skip this one?
I think you can. I mean, in the grand scheme of being really strict with what we've been doing, there aren't any major moments in this episode where you can't get the context from something else. Because when the big reveal for Garibaldi takes place, you see the man in the mirror and all that kind of stuff. And sure, there's a lot of exposition, but it's nothing that you can't skip.
Yeah. Also, isn't there a flashback to Garibaldi doing the face in the mirror?
That's what I meant. When Bester sits down with him in the tube and finally releases him from his...
That's right. Yeah. Okay, so you know what? Let's skip this one.
I can skip this one.
We're going to skip one. Holy crap, it happened.
Well, like I said, we got to be strict. We got to be tough about...
We do.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what this whole exercise is about. Okay, the illusion of truth.
Yeah. Speaking of being strict... And,
yeah. Oh, here we go. The command crew take a chance when an ISN reporter arrives on the station claiming that he wants to do an objective and truthful story on Babylon 5. Once again, I think you can skip it.
I can too. And
here's why.
Go for it.
Okay. I mean, this is a really fascinating look at how one's words can be twisted to fit a narrative, no matter the actual context, which is a really important takeaway to get out of it. But we already know that ISN is state TV, and we can figure out later on through dialogue that President Clark is smearing Babylon 5 and doing whatever he can to discredit the station. So with that being a lot of what this whole episode is about, we don't need it.
And personally, I would like to have seen them take this episode's time and either add more exposition to the Shadow War or the Civil War, because you don't really do anything with discrediting Sheridan with this video. It doesn't really go anywhere. It doesn't really make the xenophobia on Earth any more, it doesn't really elevate it or escalate it any more than it is. They've already done a fine job with that, with Night Watch, with Home Guard, with President Clark.
Yeah, we already know that things have gone straight down the shitter on Earth, and that President Clark is just a menace.
Just knowing that you're short on time, you got to make your season as tight as possible, and to focus on the two major storylines. This doesn't really fit the goals for either. It doesn't add to one. It doesn't add to the other. It just kind of takes away 48 minutes of what can be used in a better fashion.
Yeah, but you know what? To counter that, it is kind of nice when you're watching the season to have a little bit of a breather. You can see very point blank just how bad things really have gotten, just how twisted the information is that people are getting on Earth. I mean, if I'm watching season 4 of Babylon 5, I personally don't skip this episode. I quite like it. But with the rules of our see it or skip it, it does not meet the criteria.
I think Illusion of Truth the Epiphanies meets more of our criteria than Illusion of Truth.
Okay, fair enough. And we skip that. So
yeah, I'm just saying that between those two, if I had to keep one, I would keep Epiphanies.
I'm with you there.
Because it does further along the Garibaldi storyline.
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't disagree with you.
But yeah, between those two, you can skip both of them for the greater picture of what we're talking about.
Yep. Okay, so we've skipped 2.
But But episode 9, Atonement. Delenn must return to Minbar and justify her relationship with Sheridan to her people and makes an important discovery in the process. Sheridan sends Marcus and Franklin to Mars. Oh my God, you have to see this episode.
You
oh my
must
God.
see this one. And Patrick and I, my husband, who is Patrick, he watched this episode for the very first time this weekend. That was very exciting.
Oh, cool. Cool.
Yes. This brings full circle. I think a lot of the things that we know about the Earth-Minbari War really gives them the full context, the full picture, everything that happened with Sinclair. A lot about Delenn, her involvement in the war, how that has maybe affected her judgment going forward, the fact that she had Dukat as her mentor and how that profoundly influenced her. There's so much you got to know here.
And the majority of what they used here, they've recycled for in the beginning. I mean, a lot of the dreaming.
Mm-hmm. Watch this if you want to skip in the beginning.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
And they bring in like her relationship with Dukat, her growth as an initiate into the Grey Council.
Right. My favorite thing about this whole episode is there's times when Delenn is a little bit not a Mary Sue. She's not perfect, but this shows just how imperfect and flawed she is as a character, as all characters are on Babylon 5. This is her moment.
And she carries Delenn, not Mira. She carries so much history on her shoulders, even before any of this starts, because knowing what she knows, now that she knows the truth of Valen and being a child of Valen, it just kind of unlocks all of either the fear or doubt or the wonder or questioning that she had about what the Minbari do or who they are or how they move forward as a people.
Also, we learn that that's not known knowledge to the majority of the Minbari people. It's been, what they do know has been kept secret.
Right.
All this time.
Secret that would shatter Minbari culture, civilization.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, Minbari.
Yeah. Especially with all the blood they have on their hands of possible Minbari souls that they annihilated at the Battle of the Line.
Right. It could possibly unravel the whole culture. Crazy time. Terry's got a great comment that Mira Furlan nearly died because of the gas, the dry ice that they used for the fog. Absolutely true. She got CO2 poisoning, if I recall. Had to go see a doctor, and it was bad. She reacted horribly to it because she's laying on the floor. And
or CO2, like all the heaviest CO2 is.
Yeah. That had to have sucked. I'm glad she's better now.
All righty. So moving on.
Next one. Racing Mars. Franklin and Marcus arrive on Mars to begin coordinating with the Resistance. The rift between Sheridan and Garibaldi grows wider. I have this one as skippable, ?
This is what Captain Jack is.
Yeah, Captain Jack and his beef stew. Oh my God, that dude does nothing but eat. It's possible, though. We could jump to Franklin and Marcus in the next episode. The bigger issue is, do we need the growing rift between Sheridan and Garibaldi to understand how that storyline is going to play out later? Also, woo-hoo.
Woohoo. Well, see, these are great moments, but not necessarily great for the narrative. Right?
Exactly. So, can you skip it and still get everything you need?
I think so, because we're going to see a lot more of number one in play. I mean, it's nice to see.
Definitely.
Franklin, her and Franklin's relationships start to grow.
A little bit.
But I like seeing the Mars Underground, but we know that there's a Mars Underground. They always talk about the Mars Resistance. We know that Garibaldi.
This is just kind of, this is where we're seeing it for the first time, really.
Yeah. But I don't see, I don't see anything major here that if you miss this and you get to the next episode where you'd be like, I'm lost. What happened?
Yeah, I think you really could catch up. So does that mean we're skipping it?
I could skip it.
Okay. I vote to skip it as well. I mean, this was the one I told you off camera. Convince me to see it or skip it. Persuade me to your point of view. This was the one.
Racing Mart? Really?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be Epiphanies.
No.
Oh.
I would have said so.
Okay.
All right. So how about lines of communication?
Franklin and Marcus attempt to persuade the Mars Resistance to assist Sheridan in opposing President Clark, Delenn learns of the Drak and of increasing caste tensions on Minbar.
Okay, this is a see it one. This shows that the shadows are not completely gone via the Drak. Mm-hmm. Delenn's on point. Civil war is starting to brew on Minbar, and Ivanova becomes the voice of the resistance, something that matters down the line. And this is, most importantly, I think this is where Franklin and Marcus really shine with their whole work with the Mars resistance.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's where, like, Racing Mars versus Lines of Communication, you're seeing like the deeper development of what happened in Racing Mars here, and how I think it's a little bit more important. And also, it's starting kind of, there are two civil wars that are starting to play out now. You're starting the Civil War with Earth, and you're starting the Civil War with Minbar. So it's starting to
parallels.
Exactly. You're starting to drive these two narratives, which is obviously taking Delenn in one direction and Sheridan in one direction. And there's also civil wars and alliances. You're seeing the civil war between Garibaldi's independence and Sheridan's, well, at least in Garibaldi's terms, his megalomania.
Right. His, what was it? Cult of personality.
Cult of personality, yeah.
Right.
You get that one for free.
Hey, speaking of Sheridan, you mentioned on Twitter that you got the Sheridan haircut just for today.
You see that?
Yeah, it's looking good.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah. I was thinking it's like, Sheridan season 4 hair, my favorite hairstyle.
That's right. Mm-hmm. It's good stuff. So we are keeping this one, yes?
We are keeping lines for sure.
Okay. That leads us to conflicts of interest. Mm-hmm. Garibaldi begins working for a mysterious new employer. Sheridan comes up with a plan to counter President Clark's propaganda campaign. I think you got to see this one, because this is the start of Garibaldi's involvement with the Edgar's Industries empire. Mm-hmm. And we learn quite a bit about how telepathy has kind of like its impact on Earth.
Right. And you're seeing kind of like the fallout of, again, like the Vorlon's great sin was like genetically engineering humans to become telepaths so they could fight the shadows. But now what happens when all of those weapons are left behind? You know, it's like you hear stories where in war you'll find bombs that have not been deactivated, or people will find them and use them for their own nefarious reasons. This is one of those things. And Edgar's Industries and Edgar's himself, I think that he's actually trying to do the right thing by trying to control the situation. Obviously, he's making $1 billion for it with his,
sure, yeah, of course. Drugs. I mean, why not make a little, like, why not make a few billion on the side?
I mean, he's almost kind of like a war profiteer in a way. And then also, my big crush comes back, Lise Hampton.
That's right. That's right. And we know that Garibaldi has a history with Lise. So this is very important. You got to see this one.
What was the name of the kind of like the shady guy? Was it Wade?
Oh, gosh. I think so. It's been a little while since I've seen this particular part. It's coming right up for me and Patrick, though.
Yeah, Wade is like, hey, Mr. Garibaldi, I think you need to come talk to us, because I got a proposition. I was like, here. So it's like, you might as well just be like, you have the Richard Marx haircut.
Throw your mustache a little more, sir.
Yeah, it's like, I work for a guy who knows your wife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gross.
Yeah. But conflict, that's a total keep it. That's a total see it.
Definite keep it. Okay. Moving on.
So we have episode 13, Rumors, Bargains, and Lies. Sheridan tricks the League of Non-Aligned Worlds into a new alliance. Delenn approaches Naroon in an attempt to end the Minbari Civil War. Okay,
you got to see this for Delenn and Naroon. Mm-hmm. We know that they've been at odds before. Now we're really escalating things, especially in the height of a civil war.
And with Naroon coming back, I believe the last time we saw Naroon is when he challenged her and basically kicked the life out of Marcus when she was being awarded or escalated to the level of the leader of the Rangers. Right.
Yeah. Sworn in, essentially.
Sworn in. Yeah, that's sworn in. So we don't know where Naroon's loyalties lie, because he's solely Minbari cast. He's like
warrior cast.
I'm sorry, warrior cast.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's so warrior cast. I think he has the pointiest bone spurs, on his head.
Do you suppose he takes something like a file and sharpens them a little bit?
Oh yeah. Yeah,
he probably does in his spare time.
He needs to back headbutt somebody. He can spear somebody.
Oh my!
Yeah.
I wouldn't put it past him one bit. Yeah, I bet he's done that.
So it's nice to see John Vickery back. No one plays Naroon like he plays Naroon, right?
He's great. Oh, you know what else we find out is that the Great Council is constituted quite differently at this point. Delenn broke it, and now it ain't right.
They're heavily favored in the warrior caste.
That's right. There's an imbalance. Not cool.
Right. So yeah.
All right. So that's
the Sheridan thing with the League of Non-Aligned Worlds. I mean, it's like it's funny, it's cute, it's okay, but you really need to see this for the evolution of the Minbari Civil War with Delenn, and then Naroon trying to not make a peace offering, but try to negotiate at least some type of detente.
Right. Now that said, Bruce Boxleitner is beautiful constructing this plan, just especially with the breakfast scene. Watch everybody else at the table. Don't watch Sheridan. Watch Claudia. Watch Jeff. Watch let's see, Jason Carter's there, as well as Richard Biggs. When he slams on the table, Sheridan, there's massive shakeup from Ivanova, but then Zach is kind of laughing.
Yeah, he almost broke.
It's so amusing.
I think somewhere in a behind the scenes, that was an ad lib by Bruce.
Was it?
Yeah, and that's why all of them were like, they knew that he was gonna be kind of like in that mood, kind of like aloof and a little on the crazy side.
Yeah.
But when he slams his hand down, I don't think that was scripted, and that's why everyone's like, "Oh, what the?"
Okay, that's why that worked so well.
Yeah.
Okay, really cool to know, because ad-libbing is such a rare thing on Babylon 5. Well, right. Bruce, he nailed it.
Yeah, and I think that he said, I think this was Bruce's story, and he said that he wanted to do that just to like punctuate what was going on and see what would happen, and they kept that take.
Oh, that's so good. Yeah. And then you get the payoff at the very end with him just saying yes in the turbo. Well, not the turbo lift. What do they call them on Babylon 5? Just a lift?
They call them.
I forget now. Dang it.
They call them lifts.
Okay. Yeah, it's the same damn thing. Okay.
Who's been holding up the damn elevator?
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. We are on episode 14 now, right? Yes. Okay. Moments of transition. The Minbari Civil War comes to its fiery conclusion. Bester makes an offer to an increasingly desperate Lita. Sheridan is compelled to act against Earth after receiving horrible news from Ivanova. This is a must-see.
Mm-hmm.
This is where Naroon sacrifices himself.
Oh my God. So
restoring honor to the religious caste. And this is where we learn Bester has had something to do with Garibaldi and Garibaldi's altered personality. Even though we don't know the details, we learn that, and that's kind of crucial, I think, going forward. And then also Bester wants Lita's body.
Are you out of your mind?
That's pretty funny, saying that to a telepath.
Great interaction with Walter and Pat on this scene. But
so
you're right.
Good.
The Minbari Civil War, basically calling out Shakiri to stand in the Starfire wheel.
Yeah.
Delenn basically showing, hey, you know what? I'm in it to win it. And Naroon taking her place, because I love when he said that. I may have been trained as warrior, but in my heart, I am religious, because it was his master, his teacher. Oh gosh, I forgot his name. But that's the one whose body disappeared in season 1.
Oh, yes.
Branmer. It was Branmer. Branmer was his commander, and Branmer was, remember, he was religious caste by birth.
Yes.
So he trained Naroon, and now like where Naroon's heart lies, and his heart lies religion.
Yeah. Oh man, and you know what? I feel like there's such a distance between season 1 and season 4. It's hard to make that connection, but that explains so much about Naroon, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's the calling of his heart is religious, and then now that's when they start reforming the Great Council into the new balance of power.
Yes. So good. Okay, we got to keep that one.
Yep, that's a keeper.
Uh-huh. All right.
So let's see.
Episode 15, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, no surrender, no retreat. Provoked by President Clark's latest actions, Sheridan leads the White Star Fleet against Earth Force to liberate Proxima 3. Okay, you got to see it.
Here we go again.
Right? Things are heating up now with the Earth Civil War, and This is where the Centauri and the Narn governments actually agree on something and back Sheridan? Mind blown.
And the
Big time.
interesting thing is that there's a lot of what's going on with the Centauri and the Narn that have kind of been downplayed a little bit with what's going on with the Minbari and with the Earth Civil War and Mars.
Sure.
So that's whereas a lot of that was coming to a head in season 2 and season 3 for the Narn and the Centauri. Now that Londo's in a completely different political, I guess, agenda, and Jakar, they're basically trying to make sure that Jakar just doesn't get killed. Right?
Yes, which is a victory in itself at this point.
But yeah, this is I just love it when Sheridan has the entire White Star fleet and just kind of like fires up and let's do it. Let's go. It's time to go.
Let's go.
It's time to shift this because we are a little more than halfway through season 4, and it's time to shift this into the second gear.
Yeah. Right? Well, and then here's the thing is, at this point, can we just acknowledge how must-see and essential this part of the season is?
Oh, totally.
So we're going to go through these rather quickly. Don't worry.
Yeah, because the exercise of vital powers, episode 16, when Garibaldi arrives on Mars to meet his new employer, William Edgars, Lita helps Franklin to make progress with the frozen telepaths. I mean...
Okay, you know what's so funny? Given what I just said about how everything is such a must-see, this is the last one where I say, this could be a 50-50. Now, this has a lot of details about Edgars Industries and Garibaldi's relationship with Lise, which we already know. And this is kind of setting up how telepaths are going to be used later on. Do we need all that information? This is the second one where I need you to convince me.
I think on the William Edgars side, yes, because that's where you're kind of like setting up the whole telepath virus. And if Edgars is successful, then that means that he can either control telepaths or eliminate telepaths, and that's too much power. Yeah, that's too much power for one person to handle, right? Or to have or to wield.
Yeah, that's true.
It's interesting too because the actor who plays William Edgars, he comes across as being benevolent, in a way. He thinks that what he's doing is right.
Seem indifferent. Yeah.
And this also shows you kind of like the breadth and the influence of his corporation, and how his corporation pretty much has his hands in everything from pharmaceuticals to politics, to even probably spies in the resistance. And obviously when he has Garibaldi in there, he knows that he has his intelligence agency now, and he can root out anyone who's a spy or spying on the organization. And he knows with Lise on his side, I don't think that he married Lise just because.
You don't think? Right? I mean, they are not a well-matched couple.
Oh, and she says that, William's very kind to me and yada, yada, yada. But you have to believe that somewhere along the line, this is the kind of guy who doesn't put anything to chance, and he plans very far and ahead. Yeah,
he does strike me, even as much as Sheridan is a strategist, he's got nothing on Edgars.
Yeah. This guy sees
like he maybe saw what was coming and really planned accordingly. So
but the one thing that he couldn't figure out, I think so also, because the one thing that they didn't know, they had a sleeper spy in Garibaldi.
Yeah.
So everything that they're telling him, he's reporting back to Bester, because Bester wants to know what this guy has in store for his telepaths. Bester always says that, what is this guy doing? We heard rumors of this possible virus.
True. You know what? Okay. That's the clincher for me, is knowing that Garibaldi is inadvertently going to report back to Bester and what's going to happen from there.
Yeah, because if all of a sudden somebody says, when Edgars, when their residence is, ransacked and the virus is gone, or the prototype is gone and Lisa's captured, you're going to go and like, oh, why? Like, what's the big deal?
Right. Okay. Terry Lynn, even though you say no, I'm going to switch my vote and say we got to keep it.
Well, she says the Psycorp virus is there later. Well,
you know what, though? I think there's enough vital information here to where this does become essential.
The exercise of vital information.
Yeah, I guess it did become that, didn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to keep it. That takes us to the face of the enemy. Garibaldi is faced with the decision of whether or not to betray Sheridan. Lita and Franklin arrive on Mars with their cargo of frozen telepaths. Yeah, you kind of got to see this one.
Yeah, that scene at the bar was one of the best film scenes in Babylon 5, hands down. When he slaps that trank patch on Sheridan's hand, he's like, he says, "Don't resist or they're going to hurt you." I'm like, oh.
Don't you just want to wring Garibaldi's neck at that point?
Oh, yeah. And that's...
God, I hated him so much in that moment. Even knowing that his mind was being controlled by something else, I was just like, you bastard.
And this is where... Isn't this at the end of the episode where Bester releases Garibaldi from his control?
Is it this one? It might be.
And he says that,
yeah,
hey, look, we programmed you. He says we just had to push a couple buttons. The rebellion and kind of like the cantankerousness and the sarcasm, that was all there. But we just needed to push you in a couple different directions. And then thanks for absorbing all that information, unknowingly returning it and giving us everything that we need to end what was going on with William Edgars. Thanks. Oh, and by the way, we're gonna leave. Oh, and this is the beauty of this scene. He's like, I'm gonna remove my control over you, and you can't do any harm to me, but I'm gonna leave your rage intact. And this scene sets off Garibaldi's alcoholism.
Yep, for sure. I mean, Bester ruined Garibaldi.
Yep.
This is where Bester becomes bastard with a capital B.
Big time.
Big
time.
Yeah. And then, so it's kind of funny because I went from hating Garibaldi for what he did to Sheridan, but then totally sympathizing with him, knowing that Bester, of all people, that guy,
and this
he's the one who was behind. Of course he was. God damn it.
And it goes all the way back to their first meeting where he says, anatomically impossible, Mr. Garibaldi, but you're more than welcome to try. Right? But all those little bitty fights, right? This is like Bester's comeuppance on Garibaldi. He's like, I got you. And there's nothing you can do to me. Nothing.
Yeah. Oh, so many feelings. Too many feelings. Man, it's a good thing we got Bravari because that's how you cope with problems, right?
That's how Garibaldi coped with problems.
That's how I'm going to cope with problems.
Oh, not right now.
Not to the point of alcoholism, just one sip at a time.
Okay. The problems of...
He probably said that too.
The problems of the feels of these episodes.
Yes, that's the only problem. I'm not dealing with other things with alcohol. I know that doesn't work.
Speaking of like the big feels though of the end of this season, intersections in real time.
Oh boy, here we go. All they say in the synopsis is Sheridan is ruthlessly interrogated by the Earth Alliance. That's what you need to know. This is a must-see, of course.
This is
Watch it for the masterful performance.
This is one of the greatest episodes of Babylon 5, if not science fiction, I've ever seen.
Oh, totally. Boxleitner nails it. Bruce Gray, the guy who plays the interrogator, those two freaking nailed it. And this was not an easy performance.
No.
So that alone makes it a keeper. Incredible. Incredible.
Char, I like mustard, not the yellow kind, but the stone ground, the yellow kind, not the stone ground kind, because the seeds get stuck in my teeth, and they kind of make my lips curl. That guy's performance was unbelievable. Just unbelievable.
Amazing. I mean, I don't know exactly how much lead time they had from getting the script in their hands to the day that they film. I can't imagine it's that much time. But wow, those two.
There was a lot of JMS in this too, because after reading Becoming Superman and then seeing and then listening to some of the lines here, the line that Sheridan says, or the interrogator says, like, do you really think that you can fight, the powers that be? And then Sheridan says, every time I say no.
We quote that line often for a reason.
So good.
#resist.
Right?
I think about that often. Yeah.
Episode's beyond good. It's beyond good.
It transcends genre. It transcends this show. It could be any show and you could watch it and it would be powerful.
It's a two-man play.
Yeah.
Or two-person play. It doesn't matter if it's men or women. It's the principle of what's being said.
Yeah, it's just a really well told and performed story. And you know what? I love it when Babylon 5 basically just does theater. That's what this is.
Totally. Yeah.
And it's so well done. Okay. So it's a given. That needs to happen. We're keeping that. That takes us to episode 19.
One last thing about intersections real time that's really important.
Oh, please.
This is the beginning of Sheridan's goatee.
Oh, you're right.
Just saying.
Yeah.
That's important.
Well, when you go through some shit, he earned that goatee.
Oh my God, Terry Lynn, she says intersections are real time. I skipped this until Norm talked of Sheridan's power over lenses. Oh, you can't skip this.
Seriously, Terry? Oh my goodness.
You can't skip it. I mean, I'm not saying that you're wrong. Your opinions are your own, but I'm just saying you can't skip this.
No, you really can't. You miss so much if you do. All right, between the darkness and the light. Speaking of things you can't miss, as Sheridan continues to suffer at the hands of Earth Force, Ivanova takes command of the fleet for their next assignment. Garibaldi tries to prove his innocence to the Mars Resistance. So yes, Garibaldi has been somewhat deprogrammed by Bester, has to prove himself to Franklin and Lita and number one. This is where Sheridan gets rescued, essentially, and Ivanova's leading the charge.
Yeah, and Ivanova, this is the famous Ivanova speech.
That's right.
That's right.
Daughter.
Who am I?
Yeah. I am the right hand of vengeance. The boot that's going to kick your sorry ass all the way to Earth, sweetheart. God, I love that.
This is where Ivanova, this is her defining moment.
No, I disagree. It comes later.
Her defining moment as a military campaign leader.
Okay.
Yeah.
That I agree with. Mm-hmm. Her moment as a person comes very soon.
Yeah. As Ivanova in total, but this is like as somebody who's been kind of like behind a desk and doing kind of like all the CNC stuff, or just on Star Fury patrol, or even maybe going out on a mission. She's in charge of the White Star. Yeah, no, she's in charge of the White Star fleet and the fleet that's going the League of Non-Aligned World fleet that's going against Earth. No, they didn't. They wanted to keep it clean. It was the Earth. Her forces.
It was the White Star fleet with
and
any Earth ships that defected.
Right.
And then the League of Non-Aligned Worlds was there as backup in case they needed them, but they didn't want to use them unless they had to.
Yeah.
Because Sheridan, I think, says he wants to show that this is an Earth cause.
Yeah.
First and foremost.
Site. Yeah.
But they were there just in case. Oh, you changed Terry Lynn's mind, by the way, about intersections in real time. So good work.
That's what I do.
All right. Let's go to Endgame, episode 20. Right. This is where, I can just close the spreadsheet now. We need to keep these. Sheridan commands the final assault on President Clark's forces with the help of Garibaldi, Franklin, Lita, and the Mars Resistance. Marcus weighs a dangerous and vital decision. I don't even know where to start. Duh, you see this one? Duh.
It's so good.
Oh my God.
So good.
Everything is in full swing here. And if you're not ugly crying at the end of this episode, something's wrong.
This is easily one of Sheridan's greatest speeches, if not his greatest speech. It's like, your son, your daughters, we have come home.
That's right. Yeah. And then Marcus hacking his way through who knows how many systems, finding the alien healing device, hustling back to Earth, or not to Earth, to Babylon 5, and making the ultimate sacrifice.
And
when
Sheridan and the Agamemnon, his ship, remember, he led the forces on his ship.
That's right, because Ivanova requested.
And it was fitting. And then, it was nice that the captain of that ship, who was his XO at the time, gave Sheridan, command control. And you got shouty Sheridan, keep firing.
Right. And is really, he's ready to make the ultimate sacrifice if he has to ram that last thing before it kills everybody on Earth. We want to talk about high stakes. This is as good as it gets.
And then the guy that trained him, General Leftcourt.
Right.
You see him
swoops in the Apollo.
Yeah. Like, what? So good.
We should have known that was coming, but you know what? I really didn't believe in that guy until the very last minute, so the storytelling worked.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because I thought he was just going to be like poo-pooing on Sheridan. I was like, oh, yeah, he had his head together at one point, but I don't know who he is now. That blah, 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 blah.
You know what? It's kind of like the bad morals of Star Trek. It's like, I taught him everything he knows. I can beat him.
Uh-huh.
And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, wow, you're pretty awesome. And I was wrong, so I'm going to help you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we need to wrap up here. We've still got 2 episodes, one of which is Rising Star. So let's get to that. Sheridan faces the consequences of his actions against Clark and Earth Force. Marcus makes the ultimate sacrifice. Delenn organizes their various races into a history-making alliance.
Oh.
Hello, this is a must-see. This is the fallout from, well, everything.
Well, and this, so many things are happening here. First of all,
oh my God,
the Marcus being in the previous episode in Endgame, Marcus finding the information of the alien healing device, again, going all the way back to season 1.
Season 1.
Right?
The payoff on this show is unbelievable.
And then seeing Claudia's probably her greatest performance on this show.
Ever. How does she not win just a ton of awards for this episode? I'm really disappointed in everybody in life about that. I really am. I'm not kidding.
Let's see. And then obviously we don't know exactly what happened to Marcus. I mean, we know, but we don't know because at the very end of Sleeping in Light, he's not deceased.
Technically, no.
He's
and there is a beautiful short story about that.
That's what we should do for our next show.
What's that? The short story?
Yep.
Talk about it?
Yep.
Okay. I'm down. I love that story.
Yep. And obviously the beginning of the Interstellar Alliance.
Right. Again, that's building the bridge leading into season 5. You've got to know that.
This is again a must see. It is. It's so there's so much. Oh my God.
Yeah, I've got that in all caps. Pretty much from, let's see, intersections in real time, going forward up until the very last episode here. I have must see. So that's super important. That's a keeper. We're going to Deconstruction of Falling Stars. Now, this was kind of an improvised ending to season 4, knowing that they got season 5 at the 11th hour and they used this as filler because now they didn't need to use Sleeping in Light just yet.
Right.
This reveals the effect that Babylon 5 will have on the universe for up to 1 million years in the future. Now, I put to skip this one.
I did too.
Oh, okay. So I'll explain. In the grand context of everything, this is sort of like an epilogue. This is showing humanity's future. It isn't necessary to the Babylon 5 story at large.
Right.
And therefore, with some reluctance, though, I cut it. Because I do love the episode. I love watching it.
Totally.
But don't need it.
Right. And again, it's in the strict rules of what we're talking about. Like when you see things like intersection in real time between Darkness and the Light, Endgame, Rising Star. I mean, the quality and the reason to watch those episodes is because you're dealing with the strict storyline in the canon of Babylon 5. The Deconstruction of Falling Stars is awesome, but it's basically a dude looking at Earth's history who's eventually become a Vorlon or is wearing a Vorlon suit, and they're going to go and leave our solar system because the sun's going to explode and they need to keep this for posterity. That's all great.
Right.
And it's all well executed. But I would have liked to have seen, again, if they had took this out and then took the other episode that we were talking about and took those 2 hours worth of TV and gave a little bit more to either the end of the Shadow War or to the beginning of the Civil War or dealing something with the telepaths in between. It would have been a better use of time and narrative space to even out some of the rougher spots in this series, in this season. Not that there were many, just the episodes that we said that you can skip. Those were the uneven parts. Sure.
So with that, guess what, Norm? We have said 18 episodes are essential to season 4 viewing. 4 are skippable. That is the same total we determined for season 3.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So that's a kind of interesting. I thought maybe season 4 would skew a little more even to see it or skip it, but I guess that's just a testament to season 3.
Mm-hmm. Well, season 3 is great.
It is. It is. And season 4 is incredibly powerful. A lot of action and climax here, but yeah, same totals there. And eventually I'll make a grand total, but I won't do that right now because it'll require typing and I don't want any unsightly noise.
Well, the thing was with season 3 and season 4 in the fan community, these 2 seasons are probably the 2 most debated seasons for best season of Babylon 5.
I agree. I mean, then they're both so very powerful.
For a variety of different reasons.
Yeah. Season 3 is powerful in its own way because of the break from Earth and really good character development. Season 4 is so packed with action that a lot of times it just feels really intense.
Yeah, it's very tight. And, it's very tight and there's a lot of meat on the bone, not a lot of fat.
No, you can't have much fat when you're having to wrap up a show.
Before we go, though, I'd like to know, is there one episode that we did on the Skip It's that you would fight for? Just saying, like, you know what? You got a chance at a consolation prize. What would it be?
Oh, boy. Probably Epiphanies. That was the one I was on the fence about the most.
Okay.
How about you?
I would fight for Deconstruction of Falling Stars. Because I like epilogues. It's kind of like in the Lord of the Rings, like with all the seeing where all the characters end up, like going back home, seeing what their lives are, seeing what happened to the Earth Alliance. And I love the whole thing with when the panel of pundits were kind of picking apart the reason for the Interstellar Alliance and saying that Sheridan was a failure and a megalomaniac. And then Delenn comes out of nowhere from the first time in like 100 years or something.
Long freaking time, and she's kind of at the end of her rope there. She's very elderly and can barely move, and she's in her twilight years. Yeah. Well, you make a very good case for that.
And I love personally when in science fiction, when the future of humanity is kind of reduced to returning to medieval times, with
because we've nuked ourselves to death. That's taking a page out of Sheridan's book.
Yeah. True enough. That we
John Newcomb Sheridan.
It would have been funny though, because the scene before that was when there were factions against the Interstellar Alliance, and Garibaldi basically convinced that I guess he was a computer software engineer writer, and they was trying to make a holovid. All the leaders, and then Garibaldi basically said, "Hey, I just broadcast all your plans out to all of your enemies, and now all these nuclear weapons are coming." Right. And basically, they caused the Great Burn, the thing that nuked Earth. It would have been funnier, I think, if Sheridan was involved in that, because again, that would be John Newcomb Sheridan at the center of that.
This is kind of a trope here, but let's use the trope.
And to make a final point here, with Terry Lynn's note, great note. Yes, Norm, the deconstruction does show that the Rangers continue with humans.
Right.
The Rangers live on.
It's true. The Rangers live on, and they do help rebuild, and that's an important point to make for sure. So when we're done, because we are way over time, and I know you've got places to go, I will go onto Reddit and I will post our updated season 4 See It or Skip It with our totals and all of our See It or Skip It votes. And if you aren't sure where to find that, I just put the link in the notes. It's reddit.com/r/thezocalo. That's where you can find us. We need to spark a little more conversation there. So if you want to start a topic, please feel free. Right now, we are on a case-by-case basis with approval, though. But Norm and I, we're both moderators there. Eventually, somebody will get to you, and we will have a discussion.
This was an awesome show, Char. And I wish I had more time. Me
too. But I want you to get to your Cordo Prito, and I want you to have fun. And next week, we will talk about the short story that continues Marcus's journey well into the future.
I think we're getting a lot of people in tune with that, because that's a great story. And maybe something that a lot of the fans out there didn't know existed, because it's something that was kind of on the periphery of JMS's either notes or behind the scenes stories. So
right. Yeah. But it is a thing. And for those of you who ship the Susan and Marcus, you're going to be pleasantly surprised. And so we'll deep dive into that and report back. We'll talk about it for a full hour.
So if you like what you saw here on this video, make sure that you do the YouTube thing. You can like and share and subscribe and hit the notification button so that you know when your shows are going to pop up if you save them to binge watch later. And we have had a lot of more activity with previous shows as our numbers continue to rise on some of the work that we did a year ago, which is fantastic, which means that this community is growing. And also make sure that you stay in tune with all of our social media links on Twitter and on Reddit. And
let's get a party going on Reddit. Let's make the place scream.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
Taylor in Colorado is going to lead the charge. Just like Ivanova.
There you go. Do it. That'll
so
be
yeah,
great.
you can say, Terry Lynn, you can say next week, same time, same station. We're going to be back here at 4 p.m. Pacific time and 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So thanks, everybody, for joining us here on the Zocalo, the live broadcast. And until next week, be seeing you.
Bye.